Okay, we are on record and want to welcome everybody to the Marketo Virtual User Group for Manufacturing. It has been a long time since we've done an event for this user group, but I'm really happy to be back. I think it's good timing for us all to be back and to be able to join each other from our respective home offices all around the world. I think that if anything, this is the most important time for community and for us all to be able to come together. And that's always been a key piece of this user group ever since we have been running it, at least from my standpoint, since late 2017. So really glad that you all are here and want to welcome you. I think we've got some really good content to dive into here about analytics. It's a really underserved piece. It's a piece that a lot of people don't know about when they go into Marketo in terms of what the power of analytics is or how I should be using analytics to be able to help out my organization. And hopefully this presentation brings some light to some of that. We have a wonderful group of people that have joined us today to be able to attend the event. And so we want to have a live discussion at the end afterwards, which is not going to be recorded just for the sake of everybody's privacy, and just so that we can have some open, honest discussions about that. But we will use some of the learnings off of this to be able to share that as well on a blog afterwards, and be able to provide you with as much material that can be instructional. So idea of this is to have community, but also for you to have a piece that you can actually take away and use in your own organizations as you're serving different stakeholders across your businesses, whatever they may be. So to kick that off, we'll start off. My name is Michael Tucker. My consultancy is the Conversion Store. So I work on Marketo instances for different companies all over the place. A large number of them are manufacturers. And so hence the reason why we did a manufacturing Marketo virtual user group. But definitely work with all different types of businesses on all sorts of Marketo instances. And one of the great things about that is it's given me a chance to be able to kind of see what some of the needs are of different stakeholders over the years, and really kind of what sort of reporting requirements are desired, what sort of ones are meaningless or kind of go over people's heads as they're trying to work through their different instances and be able to prove value behind the actual system. So really to kind of start off here, before we dive into the topic itself, it's important that we really set a couple of different group values. And these are, if you've been to any of my user groups in the past, you'll know that these are really the values in terms of how we treat each other in terms of this space. This is a little bit different than anything else that you'll see in the Marketo marketing mix or the marketing communication stack. It's not a webinar, it's interactive. And so really to that side of things, it's a safe space to learn. So we want you to be able to ask whatever questions you want. There's no such thing as a dumb question. No one of us is smarter than all of us together. So ask a question, even if you think that it's something that everybody knows, or it's something that nobody will ridicule you for that, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. It's a collaborative space, so it's definitely we live by interacting. I've learned as much by interacting with the different champions and the Fearless 50 members in the Marketo community, as I have actually kind of going heads down and diving into the platform itself. It's not salesy though, so we're not here to be able to sell things to you. We want you to be able to succeed, and really that's the ultimate measure of the goal of this group. So there is a time for sales conversations. It's just not here. We have a limited amount of time. We want to respect that. And they're fun and they're enjoyable. More than ever right now, we really do need that. And so want to be able to make this sort of a playful session. And we have some pieces in here to kind of make that something that you want to come back to as a good way of learning. But they are professional, so we're going to have takeaways here. We'll have lots of screenshots of taken here from different anonymized instances, so that you can see some of the way that these reports are being used, understand that we're all going through things right now as we get into these. So, I've come across a mem here, which I want to just kind of share and just kind of bring some perspective into these. And, it just says, I wake up, I have clothes to wear, running water, food to eat. Life's good. I mean, there's a lot of things to be fearful of right now. If we spend less time focusing on those and more time focusing on positive things and what we can control, and not focus on the things that we can't control, I think we'll be a lot better off. So now I want to kind of get in and get to know each of you a little bit better. And this is, again, this is not a webinar. So this is designed to be something where all of you are able to kind of participate. And so I want to go down here and basically start to do introductions with each of you. And basically we just want to know, your name, your job title, what company you're with, and just your tips for working from home. And I'm going to turn off the screen share so we can see your lovely faces. And Arthur, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Arthur, or Arthur as you want to call me. I'm working for Talentsoft. It's a HR company based in Europe, mostly in France, but in Europe. My job title, I don't really know what it is. It changed like every 3 months. I was demand generation specialist and marketing technology specialist. So just marketing ops would suits me. And tips for working from home, I'm trying to put like an hour when I would start working and when I would stop. And the most difficult part is when I should stop, because my flat is not that big and my bed is 5 meters away from my laptop. So it's really easy to come back to work anytime. So yeah, just put a schedule.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Oh, also, you're the leader for the Paris Marketo user group, right?
Yep.
Do you have an event coming up?
We had one 2 months ago. We should had one 1 month ago, but it was cancelled due to coronavirus. And we are trying to set one up soon, maybe next month, but I'm a bit tight right now on time and schedule to organize things. So, but we are trying to do one every 3 months.
Okay, sounds good. Brooke, can we go to you next and do an intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Bartos. I'm a 3-time Marketo champion, and I lead the Chicagoland area users group for Marketo. I work at Walker Sands as the senior operations manager. We're a demand gen agency, so we also work with a lot of different clients, primarily in the B2B tech space. But I came from a manufacturing organization before this, so that was kind of my home space when I got started with Marketo. I think some of my biggest tips for working from home is just starting your day in a normal way. Get up, take a shower, brush your teeth, pour a cup of coffee, do the things that you would do when you have to get up and go to work in a regular environment. But just to get yourself in that groove and in that mindset, and making sure that you're taking breaks frequently to be able to get up, walk around, instead of sitting in your favorite comfy chair or your couch all day long, and keep your mind moving.
Nice. Rajesh, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah, thanks. So my name is Rajesh, and I love Marketo. I've been working in marketing automation since like 15, 16 years, and last decade or so on Marketo exclusively. And I work on Marketo. I'm a 3 times Marketo champion. Also I'm a creator. I actually, one of the Christmases about a few years back, I created a webhook library for marketers, because as a Marketo professional, I didn't find it, every time I had to build one. So I built a Launchpoint partner application called brighthooks.com, which is a webhook library, which we can just use it whenever needed on demand. And I want to take a little bit of this free time, which, not free time, but basically some time now in this, to try to kind of cook up some ideas of how we can even take it further, maybe even build something different. For example, I always kind of find it, I don't know how you guys do, but many times you build something and it's been 2 years, 3 years, and you forget what was the logic of this smart campaign or thing like that. So it's kind of, unfortunately, there's no comments or notes on each flow step and things like that. So trying to build something, a browser-based note, so that we can remember what this logic was, especially when it is complex programming. So something like that I'm trying to build. But other than that, I try to make up problems so I can solve. But that's about me. But yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Okay, great to have you again, and looking forward to having you part of the community here. Lana Garrett, can we go with you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Lana Garrett. I am in North Carolina. joining the meeting today because I just need some human interaction with people outside of the house. And then also, of course, because I'd like to see your perspective on analytics. I've been working with Marketo, with the tool or the platform itself, for about 8 years. In 20, let me think, gosh, I need to think back for a second here. In 2015, I was a guest speaker at the Marketo Summit, so that's great. And I currently am the marketing automation manager at Cadient, Cognizant company. So we are a consultant company, work with a wide range of clients, mostly in the healthcare, field. So glad to be here with you guys.
That's great. Well, glad to have you here, and especially, if you're working in healthcare, lots of respect for that. So thank you there. And you're in North Carolina. I'm in Charlotte. Where are you?
Oh, great. I'm in Newton, which the closest city, I guess maybe you'd know, is Hickory.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're not very far from me at all. Okay. Well, welcome.
Oh.
So it's good to have somebody else in the area to be able to chat with. Feel free to kind of connect with me afterwards.
Thanks, Michael.
I think the last person that I can see on my list here is, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this. Is it Fadi Aziz?
That's right. Yeah, it's me. Hello, everyone, and nice to virtually meet you. So I'm joining from Vancouver. I'm a marketing operations strategist with SAP here in Vancouver. I've been working with Marketo for maybe 3 years now, Marketo certified. But yeah, I'm always trying to connect with Marketo heavy lifters whenever I get, to be honest, I can't remember where exactly I found about you guys, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to, just connect, network with everyone, share some best practices and learn. I think this is a great way to save you some time, trying to figure things out on your own by just sharing experiences.
That's great.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to get to know everyone here and learn from each other.
Okay, great. I more or less grew up in Vancouver, actually. So I'm a SFU alumni, Simon Fraser University alumni. Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah, I lived in Walnut Grove and Langley, so I don't know what part of the Lower Mainland you're in, but
in Vancouver downtown. Yeah.
Downtown? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Good. Well, it's a small world, and again, it's nice for us all to be able to kind of connect like that and kind of see kind of the commonalities and how we all kind of link together here. I think it's really important, especially in these times. Okay, well, let's dive into the topic a little bit more, and really kind of, why analytics, right? So why do a presentation and focus on analytics? And to some people, they look at that and they think, well, this is the we use something else for analytics, and then Marketo handles it for email nurtures. We actually use a lot of capabilities within the Marketo platform for analytics. It just, needs a little bit of framing around how you use analytics, and there's some kind of different concepts around analytics that are kind of important to understand before you dive into to analytics within Marketo, and what that means. And it's funny when we talk about it, actually, Fadi, it's kind of interesting thinking, my first marketing manager job was in Vancouver, trying to buy out-of-home placements and radio placements and newspaper placements and all this mass media. This was a while ago, before social media and digital marketing was really especially a cloud-based marketing was a popular thing. And the question always came up is, well, how do you know you have a successful media buy? And Lord knows there's a lot of different market research and quite a bit of money that was trying to spend to be able to prove that the money that you originally spent buying, a flighting of radio ads, or so many column inches in a newspaper, or a 30-second spot versus a 15-second spot, and what time place is on. It's great that we have all these abilities to be able to kind of pull up all of these reports and charts. It's really important that we understand exactly what the business case for that is, and I think that that's the piece that we're really want to focus in on here, is to kind of say, there is value in analytics, but the value that that people get from analytics varies depending on what your role is within an organization. So what the purpose of our presentation today is going to be is to really talk about it from the end user standpoint. So I don't want to get into the nitty gritty about analytics per se within Marketo, although we have some screenshots on that, but just to kind of say, what's the use case as you are coming in as your Marketo administrator? What is the use case that the different stakeholders, the personas, if you will, within inside of your organization? You do personas for your target audiences, but in the case of analytics, your target audience is your inside stakeholders. So for your marketing leaders, for your designers, for your sales team, what is that value proposition for analytics? And understand that there's a lot of different reporting data that exists within Marketo. And it's designed really to be a platform to work across the entire enterprise. And so for that reason, not everyone needs use of every single report. There are some reports that mean more than to some than others. So, just look at the different examples that are there. There's 30, 31 different reports and more depending on, if you have add-on modules into the platform that are inside the analytics tab itself. If you have revenue cycle or life cycle analytics installed, there's different reports that are available there. If you have Revenue Explorer, Revenue Cycle Explorer, there's different reports that are there. You have email insights. You have smart lists that you can export. You have the Marketo calendar is arguably a form of reporting on what's happening within an instance at any given time. And that doesn't even count all of the extra add-ons that you can add to the platform, like Sales Insights or Sales Engage, or third-party tools that you can bolt in. So Rajesh talked a little bit about LaunchPoint partners and being able to webhook, and that capability really opens up the data that is gathered in Marketo to a whole host of other platforms, from your CRMs, your Salesforce, and your Dynamics, to business intelligence tools like Tableau or Power BI or Adobe Analytics, to really any other piece that you can connect through a REST API into Marketo, which is what's the latest Martech chart from Scott Brinker? I think it's 4,000 plus different applications. So a lot of those interfaces can be used across the board. The problem is how do we avoid information overload? How do we avoid sending too much information and overwhelming our stakeholders? And so that's really what the purpose of this is. And so, just to give some framework, some background in terms of Marketo reporting, is that anytime that you want to be able to access reporting in Marketo, you need to have a login to the platform. And so that's, it's important to be able to understand that, not every user or every person inside of your organization should have access to all of Marketo. The last thing you want to be able to do is have all sorts of different hands on all of these different mission critical programs that are running different aspects of your business and engaging and nurturing different leads. So it's important to really have an understanding that, it seems daunting and you kind of think, well, why do I want to give access to my entire Marketo instance to all of these different stakeholders just so that they can see reporting? Well, that's a big reason why user rules exist. So when you log into your Marketo instance and you go to your admin and your users and rule permissions, you can set up rules that are specifically for different types of users, so that this is the out of the box view that you see from Marketo of the rules that come in a fresh instance. But there's nothing stopping you from creating a separate rule specifically for executives that has nothing else but analytics access or access to Revenue Explorer, so that you can lock down the areas that are mission critical to your business so nothing's accidentally changed, but then really pick some really granular permissions so that people can get access to the data that they need to, if they need to see an email program and see a dashboard, or if they want to be able to kind of go in and just work off of the higher level organizational analytics. And then, there's other elements that we'll talk about a little later on where you might not necessarily need to have a Marketo login. So think about email subscriptions and think about ways to be able to export that data and then automatically email it to that person. If they get an email attachment with an attachment that has a CSV file that has all the data they need, or an Excel file that has all the data they need, then that helps you to kind of work around that sort of area. The other piece that's misunderstood a lot of times is I think that, oftentimes with all the different applications that we see out in the area, we often think that reporting should work like this. You click on the reports area and there's a whole set of pre-canned graphs and charts and really nice looking, visually appealing charts that explain to you what's happening within a given instance. One of the mindset changes that I've seen, in Marketo, I don't think I really understood this until a couple of years into the platform, is Marketo is the ultimate tool in terms of flexibility, and it's really designed to build around the way your organization works. And you will have different, as you move around from organization to organization to use Marketo, one of the things that you understand is that different organizations define success in different ways. They define some of their metrics in different ways. And so, Marketo is kind of set up so that you have that flexibility to be able to pull up the data that you need, and then you build the graphs on top of that data. But it's not pre-canned. And honestly, that's been a limitation that I've seen in other platforms working with them, is you run across, this is the way that this platform works, and reporting, the business has to fit to reporting. Marketo doesn't work that way. Marketo works in the way that you understand what the business needs, and then you adjust your reporting accordingly. We'll cover that a little bit later on into this session. About how you do that. So it's a different mindset. So keep that in mind. Don't throw out Marketo analytics before you understand that you just have to go through some processes to understand what your organization needs first. And really, again, the user interface doesn't necessarily, I don't think that it necessarily speaks to this in such a way. You click on analytics and suddenly you're presented with this giant screen with all of these different types of reporting options. But what's missing in this view, albeit it's collectively exhaustive and it really talks about a lot of the different reports that are available, but there's not really a hierarchy. There's not really an area that says, this is a dashboard of all the different reports that you'd use if you're an executive, and don't show me the other reports that I don't necessarily need. Does an executive want to get into an email performance report and look at the performance of one individual email? Well, maybe if it's a really mission critical email, but not on every email. And so that might be information overkill for them. And so, that's one of the things we want to talk about here with this. And then also just want to be able to talk a little bit about the goal of Marketo. So when you think of the data, you want to be able, that you use inside of analytics, you want to think about conceptually, what is it that Marketo is trying to do for your organization from a 50,000 foot level before you dive into the reporting. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is kind of a simple graphic that really just talks about lifecycle processing from a high level. But if you read this from left to right, at the end of the day, what Marketo is trying to do is to be able to convert the anonymous visitors, the anonymous target audience that you are trying to get your marketing program out to, and really move them through a process where they eventually become a customer. And they move through all these, I won't go into all these different stages. If you want to know more about lifecycle marketing, there's a lot of really good material in the community. Last piece that I remember seeing just off the top of my head was, I think Joe Wright's 2018 presentation on lifecycle analytics. There's a good recording on that. I like that one a lot too, actually, in terms of being able to talk about that. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to be able to do. And so if you take that model and you kind of think about it in terms of who are the stakeholders that are involved in that, you have executives, you have marketers, you have designers, and you have sales managers. And so now what we'll do is take a look at reporting by the different stakeholders. And these are just tips. Your organization may have completely different, different view. You might have executives that are really come from a data mining background, for example, or a technical background and are more quantitative in terms of how they look at data and want to see something deeper than what we have here. But these are just really high level sort of recommendations, if you will. So really want to start with executives, and really our thinking on this is start by thinking about what are their goals. And really, executives are responsible for the entire organization and all of the different value drivers across it, from finance to accounting to sales. And marketing is one piece of those, albeit it's a really important piece. They don't necessarily need to get into the nitty gritty. And so high level metrics that really talk about marketing's contribution to the greater organization. That's really what we want to get at here. And so really, in my mind, I think that the fastest way and the way that requires the least amount of configurations in a Marketo instance is to have to start with email insights with these people. Email insights, we have some screenshots here, but it's really simple dashboarding that allows you to be able to see, the aggregate metrics, the line charts that basically talk about opens and clicks, engagements, bounces, and also, to be able to quickly take you to where inside of the Marketo instance all of those different emails are being sent from. And it's done by a time frame. There's a lot of great granularity that's in there for executives to be able to slice and dice that data so that they can see by a business unit, by a workspace, by a different type of audience member. And it's great from a tool standpoint in that you can't really change the configuration of a program within Email Insights. It's strictly there for reporting. So it's the amount of damage, if you will, that can't happen inside of that area of Marketo. So that's a good one to give to your executives. Revenue Explorer. Now, this is an add-on module. You don't get this out of the box with Marketo instances, but I truly believe that if you have the budget, that this is the most important piece that I would add into my Marketo instance. If you asked me what's the first thing that I would add in above and beyond the base instance of Marketo, I'd say Revenue Explorer. It doesn't require a lot of work, and if you think about it conceptually, it's a lot like a pivot table. So I have some screenshots, and we'll go through that later on. Marketing calendar is sort of self-explanatory. People performance is overall net new leads and opportunities that are created by time periods. So again, this is email insights. So you can see I've blurred out a lot of the information that's in this instance, and this is a fairly early on instance. So forgive the charts and everything like that. But you can see you have metrics that are coming in here. There's the ability to be able to filter down, and you can actually change all of the different kind of the information that's explained in these graphs. So definitely can play with that. And it also has a different tab here if you look at the top left, where you really can pick up the sends that you're seeing that constitute what's happening inside of all of those graphs. All of these are clickable, so the being able to scroll through the tree in Marketo that's on the left-hand side of your marketing activities and kind of get a sense of what's driving it. That can be a little bit cumbersome for somebody who's not in the system every day. This is a really concise way for somebody who's like an executive to be able to click through and quickly get to those programs and be able to look at any sort of reporting or dashboarding that's done inside of the programs, think like an email program, for example. Marketers, understanding which marketing initiatives are the best for contributing value to the organization over time. So we, in our marketing programs, work with a number of different types of media: paid social, organic social, paid search, organic search, email marketing, affiliate marketing, event marketing. Think of all these different ways that people can engage with your brand, and you can communicate to different target audience members. So really, you can make use of all of these. But I think when you look at in terms of value across all of the different types of media that you deal with, looking at people as they're created by your revenue stage, by that chart that we had talked about earlier that had anonymous visitors to customers. That's your value chart. That's your success path inside of the Marketo universe. So thinking about who those actual people are, and more importantly, if you have your system connected to a CRM, what business opportunities are you actually creating for them? When your executives or your leadership looks at you and says, what's Marketo doing? This is a great report to be able to say, this is how many opportunities in our CRM, how many sales interactions, and what the dollar amount of those sales interactions are inside of my instance, and have that sync back and say, well, this is directly being caused by the marketing that I'm doing across the department in my organization. The Success Path Analyzer is a different way of being able to view that, and arguably it gives you a better sense of trends and time and that people are spending. So it shows the velocity that people are moving through those revenue stages in a better way as well too. And then Program Analyzer is more of, think of like a brand positioning chart, but Program Analyzer is more of like a positioning chart for the different marketing programs that you have, so that you have I probably should have put a screenshot of this, but you have different bubbles, different and X and the Y axis of that chart are going to differ by factors that you can actually decide. So if that's time, if that's the period cost that you're adding to your program, a number of different factors that you can add into that and to be able to kind of give a visual representation of how your programs are interacting and which one's contributing to the bottom line more frequently. Designers. So designers really, you get a better sense of the creative element. These are people that are diving into the HTML and the CSS and creating, your templates, or even copywriters and creating creative within your Marketo instance. Now you might think, well, how often are they really involved in analytics? But if you think about it from a conversion rate optimization mindset, a CRO perspective, and trying to think, how does my design of a landing page directly affect how many people are clicking on the call to action button? We have a number of tools that allow for A/B testing and champion challenger testing inside of Marketo, and that's a whole different area of reporting that we don't dive into too much. I think that's covered in kind of other sessions a little bit more so. But when you look inside of the analytics area, being able to look at the email and the landing page performance reports, those are two different reports that are just put into one spot. That gives you a better sense of what the visitor traffic is doing. The link performance report, that so that you can see exactly what people are clicking on, and more important, sometimes more importantly, what people aren't clicking on. If you look at a link performance report and everybody's just clicking on unsubscribe, maybe that's a good note for a designer to kind of change the way that the design or the copy that's inside of that piece is going to. Also, is kind of worth noting that that's not always just because of design issues. So, that's a good thing for the marketer to look at as well with the designer to kind of say, well, maybe it's great design, maybe we're going to the wrong audience. So all of those things become known when you start to look at those reports. Social influence. Now these only really work if you put in social sharing buttons inside of your creative inside of Marketo. I think there's a Marketo Foo article on that. Anything you can find in docs.marketo.com around that. But look at social share buttons if you want to make use of that. It kind of gives you a sense of who's spreading the most word of mouth, which is a pretty good indicator of interest. And engagement streams performance is very much like email performance reports, but it really kind of focused on the actual performance within one specific stream inside of an engagement program. And the last piece we're going to talk about here is sales managers, and really just kind of understanding which prospects are ready to become sales. Most of the time we don't think about salespeople as being Marketo users. But again, if you set up a user role for a sales manager that has access to specific metrics in no other areas of the instance, then maybe that's an area that might be helpful to them. Or again, be able to use kind of email reporting for those people and just kind of send them an alert for just the pieces of Marketo that you want to be able to see. So that's a kind of a delicate discussion. You don't necessarily want them to see your marketing metrics, but it's important that they're not completely blind or locked out of what's happening inside of marketing as well too, and they understand that there's a value that marketing is creating as much so as there's a value that's being created by the sales force and what their interactions are doing with their customers. So to that end, Revenue Cycle Explorer, being able to look at opportunities, being able to talk about web page activity and company web activity. So these are great drivers. If you ever see one, I really couldn't take a screenshot of it because you'd have to blur the entire thing out, to be honest with you, because that information is so valuable. But if you have a known lead, it will give you the name of that person and their contact, their contact and their title information and what company they're in, and how they're engaging with your website, or the company information, and Marketo will look up the IP address if it's a bigger company and kind of show you that this company is engaged with this and this area of your marketing creative that's been Munchkin code tagged. And in the Opportunity Influence Analyzer is a report that doesn't get talked about as much because it's very specific to one specific opportunity. But if you're hunting the big fish, if you're really going after a big contract, and you get to a point, I come from a sales background. So if you get to a point where that conversation slows down as you're trying to close a deal and get to a close one status, opportunity influence analyzer is a really good way to be able to kind of look back at the entire relationship from a marketing perspective. And it will show you, if you configure this properly, which marketing pieces, what sort of features and benefits and end results of your product or service are resonating the most with that person to start that conversation. Can be really helpful to be able to open up a sales engagement afterwards. So a lot of different tools that are out there. I want to pause just for a moment because I threw a lot of information out at everybody. And I want to pause if there's any questions or any thoughts from the audience at this point in time, or, we can talk about that in a separate section, but also just to make sure that everybody's with me and all that makes sense.
So yeah, for me, Arthur, everything makes sense, but it's very difficult to get a different stakeholder to come into Marketo. Like everybody have access to Salesforce, like almost everybody, but not anybody have access to Marketo. So it's very difficult to get salespeople to go inside Marketo and to show them some stuff. Okay, so right now in my organization, we're using Power BI, so we get all the data in Power BI, but I know that's a problem we had before, that people won't go inside Marketo.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen that a lot too, actually. I'm glad you mentioned it's a good segue to my next section. So, I think what I've seen, I think what has helped me the most for bringing salespeople in has been instead of trying to ask them to come to Marketo, is you bring Marketo to them and you send out email alerts and email subscriptions to them. And I'm going to actually just touch on a piece a little later on about how to be able to set up internal email alerts for your different members of your organization. I almost think of it like a different, not a segmentation, but I'd say more like an internal list. A lot of clients that I've seen have had a seed list or an internal stakeholders list to be able to vet email blasts that go out, for example. So you want to be able to send your executives and your sales leadership an email an hour or two before you send it out to the general audience. If you look at some of the links that get created in Marketo, there's no reason why you can't set up links specifically to some of their most valuable reports for that group, and have them email out so that you're not going to ignore your inbox. You might not log into Marketo all the time, but if you have an email that's saying, hey, this new report just came out, here's a link to quickly get you to the spot in Marketo that you need to see, that might help that process.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. That's a good one, actually. I like that a lot. And so I'm going to cover this actually right now too, and just talk about. So let's talk about Revenue Cycle Explorer as kind of an option for being able to kind of put together information for that actual that audience, that external audience, and just to give you a sense of exactly what the tool itself does. So really, the tool is an add-on to Marketo. It's not real time. It only syncs every evening. So once a day you'll get a sync and an update for the data that's happening within your Marketo instance. But you can sync really any custom field that you want to the instance as well. But out of the box, it comes installed to be able to track all of these different areas, all of the different information that's coming in about your leads and your opportunities, and some of the program information that's being gathered by engagements within your Marketo instance. And at the end of the day, what it does is it basically looks a lot like a pivot table, if you use Excel and you're familiar with those. So gives you that sort of roll up to be able to kind of show kind of what's happening, what's not happening, by different types of areas within the business. And so you can slice and dice this however you want to, but what I would recommend doing, and I do this with all the different Marketo reports, is to be able to build the views that you want to be able to show to different stakeholders. So understand your stakeholders first, understand their needs, and then you do the work for them to be able to configure out these reports and just save them so that they're very quick, they're easy for people to be able to come back to. And another level, so this is very much tabular data that I just showed you. You can also change and add this into graphical data as well too. And that's a very simple process really to be able to kind of click these icons on the top right. And this one is in a columnar chart, but there's pie charts, there's line graphs, there's all sorts of other graphical reports that are built into Marketo that will automatically update with your data. You don't have to sync those to any other platform. Marketo automatically will sync to that Revenue Explorer module. And then if you think about, okay, well, how am I going to get some of these, end users to be able to go through the platform and be able to find this report? Yes, you can bring them into the interface and it's just a tree. It's a file tree structure, just like you would in Windows or Mac to be able to find your files. But if you right click on all those tabs, there is a create deep link option. It's a long link, but there's no reason why you can't quickly just kind of do a Control K or add a hyperlink into an email or a landing page, or again, any type of marketing communication, and quickly send it to that internal stakeholder, and that'll take you directly to the report within Revenue Cycle Explorer. So it's kind of a trick that I don't think I saw in the documentation anywhere, but I use it a lot when I get requests from people who are non-Marketo users. And then the other piece about that too is that you're not just limited to one graph or chart, is that you have dashboarding within here. That same deep link applies here as well too, is you can deep link a dashboard of different reports. So on the left-hand side here, I have graphical elements of the tabular data that's on the right-hand side. The reason why I have them split into both sides that people don't realize is that, and you won't be able to see it because all the data is blurred out here, but I have added on drill down links into each of these tabular reports. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll build a table like this, and then a business stakeholder will come back and say, well, what does this mean? What is this part that's in, this column of this row mean? You can actually click into those and actually set up Revenue Cycle Explorer to actually drill down and show you the cumulative sum of all of the leads, and actually see the first name, the last name, whatever columns you want to identify that have been synced into Revenue Cycle Explorer. You can add those into that drill down, which really helps to answer a lot of questions. And it's also really great. I think I'm thinking about this specifically from like a sales perspective, is you can take that list afterwards and export it right away to be able to let's say it's a hit list of really high value prospects that are about ready to close. It's a great way to get that data concisely out to a sales organization so that they can work on that right away if they want to do that. So like I mentioned to, Arthur, I'm going to write my next blog article on this. So this is my blog, conversionstore.com/blog. And then the next one is just going to be specifically about doing internal reporting alerts. So above and beyond email subscriptions, there's other ways that you can set up elements of your Marketo instance. So historically, I've had different Marketo instances that you use for, let's say, learning management systems to be able to encourage people to go through training. Well, you can apply the same technique to be able to send people alerts about the reporting inside of your instance as well too. And that's a good way to kind of build that engagement. So that'll be coming. I'm going to write that probably in the next couple of days and then publish it on there. And then the other thing, to your point, so you talked about Power BI and being able to kind of move that Marketo data into a business intelligence platform. So this is a really, really simple example of this. And this is in Excel because it was just a smaller set, but definitely would do something like that in more of like a Tableau, a Power BI, and Adobe Analytics for a larger data set. But one of the examples that I like to do this a lot is for lead scoring. So when I get an engagement to be able to work on lead scoring, so you're developing behavioral score, person score, demographic score for people, I like to visualize that and put that into, so you build a smart list out of it. In my next slide, I'll show you can export all of that data, at any point in time to a CSV file. If you want to do it the manual way or through a webhook or an API connection, if it's a Launchpoint partner, and then build a histogram. So a statistical representation that shows you all of the different bins that people are in different. So this is a simple score. This This instance was a very early phase. So you'll see there's hardly any score that's in it. That's the whole point of this graph. But if this had been going for a couple of years, you might see scores that are 50 to 60. This would be 0 to 100. And it shows you the modality of that data, shows you, are there is it modal in the sense of is the distribution of leads that I'm working on here? Is there a high a spike or a mode of MQLs, of sales qualified leads, of marketing accepted leads, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's data that's not inherent into the Marketo platform, but there's no reason why, and you have all the capabilities within Marketo to be able to share that to a business intelligence platform, and be able to kind of move that around to however the best way is to represent that across your organization. Were there any questions about that? Does anybody have any comments about those pieces?
Hey, this is Juana. So there's one thing I'd like new learn that you gave me, and I would just like to express appreciation. So I didn't know how to do that, creating the deep link. So that was a new learn for me. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, we just had a little bit of time to kind of play around with RCE maybe a year or two ago, and it's not in the documentation. There's a lot that's in RCE that you won't find in documentation, like that drill down links. So appreciate that, and would highly recommend kind of going in there and looking at the different settings in there that help with that too. Thanks. Okay, so this is a great kind of segue actually into that is too, Lana, is so you have a link, and how do you get that out to people, right? And so, part of that is an understanding that when you're creating those reports, that screen that had showed you previously with the 30 different types of reports, those are Marketo's blank reports. They aren't kind of drilled down to individuals, but understand that Marketo is really a mid to large enterprise type of a system, so that there'll be different places in your organization that'll need different types of reports, and so we want to walk through exactly how to configure those reports, and then also to be able to save those. So we talked about so really when you go in and you click on one of those reports, so let's take an email performance report. Now, this is out of a sandbox, so there's no data that's in this email performance report area in this instance, but if you take a look at kind of going into them, the first thing you want to be able to do is start on your setup tab. And a lot of times you'll look at your reports, even if your Marketo instance is an older instance, and you'll see hardly any data that comes out. A lot of that's because the default instance of that report is set to the last 7 days. So, start off on your setup tab, check your time frames, make sure that those are correct. Drag in any, if you want to look at email performance across specific email assets, you want to drag in all of these assets. One of these tabs here, this is a lot like the rest of the user interface and marketing activities, is you drag across some of your email assets and pick the emails that are most relevant to what you're trying to get analytics on. And so you have different options that are here. After you do that, then you have the ability to filter down even further. So let's say that you are building a report on email performance for somebody who is a sales manager for the Midwest United States. Well, they don't need to see the performance reports for emails that are going out to the Northeast or the Southwest. They only want to see the Midwest. Or maybe it's just the US. So you quickly type in country and just pick your filters appropriately and filter that down. So you have your report, and that's all great, but now you need to be able to kind of see, well, what is the, you want to be able to save that report, so that Midwest manager can see it when you built it, but then also has the ability to be able to pull up that report a month from now when they want to see, well, what's the new email performance? What's the email performance for, let's say, a newsletter that goes out in the next month? So you have that ability to be able to set that up here. So you can quickly save that information and and pull that into a different folder inside of your analytics instance. You see there's a folder tree on the left-hand side of analytics. Save save a folder specifically for your Midwest sales manager, put in all the reports that are relevant to that person. Set a link, here's a little different. All you have to do is just take the URL of this report, send that to the sales manager. If they have a Marketo login, they can quickly get to that report. And then the other piece is if they can't, let's say that they don't want to use the link side of things, there's no reason why you can't set up save that report, have it sent privately, and then export that and email it to them, or send them an email subscription as well too. So that's really, a piece that I found very valuable, is being able to kind of quickly go into your analytics tab, and in the new menu here in the top left, go to an email report subscription. Now understand, you can use this for all of your all of your analytics that are inside of analytics. You can also build email subscriptions for all of the revenue cycle analytics models. So think of that dashboard that we had before with the multiple charts and the multiple tables. All of those can be sent in an email format, so that you have a link that automatically gets sent once a week, once a month, to whomever inside of your organization. They don't need to have a Marketo account. You just put in their email address and they have access to be able to get that email alert. Now, some of these alerts, keep in mind, some of them do require you to log back into the system, and you want that for security purposes. You don't want to be sending out, all of your sensitive internal information about what's happening in your marketing program in an email that can be easily forwarded to somebody else by accident. So you do want to have those links back. So you might need a report, but at the very least, the alert that exists can go out to whomever has an email address. And maybe you only have one person inside of your sales organization, for example, that has a Marketo instance to grab the report if that's a need at the end of the day. And then the last piece is on exporting data. So, this is consistent across most of the old Marketo UI. I think this is going to change a little bit with Sky, with the new user interface, as we've seen, but it won't be a dramatic difference. But you'll see here in the bottom of this report, it's a blank report again, it's a sandbox. But if you take a look here, you'll always have this icon that allows you to be able to quickly export your data and move that into an Excel file or a PDF file, and quickly get that out so that you have a file to be able to share with other stakeholders who, again, may or may not have Marketo access. So that's the crux of what we're going to cover off today. I'm going to pause the recording now, and then that way we can have an interactive discussion with this. We do this off of recordings so that it's an open and honest discussion with all the different stakeholders that are here and audience members. But if you do have a question, if you're watching this in the recorded format and you don't have the ability to be able to see to join us, you're more than welcome to be able to email me any questions. I'd be happy to be able to answer those. My email is Michael, Michael, @conversionstore.com. And so happy to be able to answer those. I'm going to pause the recording right now, and I'm going to unmute everybody, and we'll look forward to be able to answer questions. So recording. Well, we're going to resume the recording now and just end off the conversation. And thank you for the discussion points. Really great to kind of get some of those points that kind of came out, just about everybody's favorite reports and different ways that you are using analytics, and especially in the workspace partition environment too. Those are kind of interesting discussions to have. We're going to move on here and really just kind of close off with a couple of our upcoming sessions. So Christina Zuniga, who is in charge of the Santa Barbara Marketo user group, and I were co-presenters for this year's Adobe Summit virtual, and our session was on special events advanced tactics. Now, with the change with everybody not going to Las Vegas, we had a shorter version of that, so we did a 20-minute presentation. The next Marketo user group event that we're going to have here will be on April the 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, and that one we're going to cover a more in-depth version of that. I'm actually working to get Cvent and a subject matter expert from that launch point partner who focuses on event marketing to be a presenter along with us on this, and we're going to give you a deeper dive into how to do event programs and event marketing within your Marketo instance. So hopefully you'll join us there. And then the last piece is something that's kind of outside of the greater Marketo community, but really something that we did a couple of years ago. It was a year and a bit ago, actually, where Brooke Bartos, who's on this call, and I, and Jessica Cow, who is Marketo Champion of the Year, and Christina Zuniga from the slide before, and Helen Abramova, who runs the Washington, D.C. Marketo user group, got together and really kind of launched off a Martech book club. And it's a book club that we're going to do. We're doing it about once a quarter. I think we're all at home now and probably have a little more free time on our hands. So, worth being able to kind of go in and pick up a good book and learn a little something in the process. So we're going to have that. It's an open discussion, a lot like this, but it'll be about some of our favorite marketing and business books. So I'm just picking this one, Extreme Ownership, to kind of kick us off. And it's how the U.S. Navy SEALs lead and win. Actually had these gentlemen at a local networking event here in Charlotte several months ago, and they have really interesting stories to come out of their time serving in the armed forces here in the United States, and working with building teams under very stressful situations, which I think is something that exists a lot in today's environment. So I thought this would be a good one to kind of kick us off with. We're going to do that session on Friday, May 22nd at this same time, so 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. if you're on the West Coast, and would love to be able to have you attend at that point and be able to kind of engage with you at that point. So the URL that we have there, martechbookclub.com, we're going to point that into a landing page where you can sign up for this to be part of that discussion. And if you want to participate in it as well too, you're more than welcome to do so. We'd love to have as much discussion as possible. I think it helps us to be able to learn and engage this book, and also really to build a greater sense of community. And so we're glad that you're here to be able to visit with us, and want to thank you all for your time. And again, hope you're all well. Stay home, be safe, and we'll get through this together. So thank you all for coming.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you so much, Michael.